let's talk about Benjamin Netanyahu, because Tucker Carlson made a statement that, is making shockwaves on the system update with Glenn Greenwald. Now, of course, the statement that he made is pretty obvious, pretty basic stuff for those who have at least a little bit of competence. He said that Netanyahu has been telling multiple people, I control the United States and I control Donald Trump. Let's take a look at the clip first, and then I'll show you the 700 other examples where Benjamin Netanyahu has directly done so. Let's take a look.
I'm not guessing about this because I talked to people he said it to, is running around the Middle East, his region, and his own country and telling people point blank, just stating it, I control the United States. I control Donald Trump. He's saying that. And again, I'm not guessing at all. That's a fact. And I dare them to say that's not true because it is true and they know it's true.
Yeah. So people have been running around making it seem as though that's not the case. And it's been really funny. It's been really funny to see people being like, "Dog, that's crazy. That's silly. That's dumb. How dare you say Benjamin Netanyahu has any sort of outsized influence over whatever events take place in the United States," which I thought was really funny. So here's some of his many moments. Here's the lol nothing matters one. This guy says, Israel had, in fact, lobbied strenuously against the Iraq war, predicting that it would weaken the constraints of the real Middle Eastern danger, Iran. What an incredible thing to say. Tucker Carlson also did this like 9/11 thing as well. He's doing a little 9/11 documentary. This probably pertains to that as well. He says, America started preparing for war with Iraq immediately after September 11th at the behest of a foreign government, Israel. Let's take a look at what his full statement was, and then we'll look at the response.
Buildings were still burning. There were people in Washington discussing and pushing a war against Iraq, which I don't think any smart person...
Also, not only is that aspect of it correct, but it was far before 9/11 that they had interest in attacking Iraq. Okay? Also, interesting for Tucker Carlson to say this, considering that he was a champion of the Iraq war for a very long time. But, let's continue.
That any connection to 9/11, there was a lot of reason to believe that having Saddam in power was probably good for the United States as a counterbalance against Iran, as the protector of, millions of Christians. There are a lot of reasons that Saddam wasn't the worst, and certainly much better than what we got after. But nevertheless, at the behest of a foreign government, Israel, the United States began preparing for war.
There's also the thing that a lot of people do that I personally despise, which is taking away the responsibility from American capital owners. Like, it must not have been our big, beautiful WASPs and their own personal ambition, their own personal interest in like extracting the natural resources of Iraq, for example, by any means necessary, that played a formative role in this grand design. And it must have been just Israel. Israel has the capacity to tilt the scales. And Israel certainly, quite openly, has done so in broad daylight, time and time again. That clip that I'm going to show you in the aftermath of this is Benjamin Netanyahu, a younger Benjamin Netanyahu, making the convincing case as to why America should go to war with Iraq and how this would have an incredible domino effect in the region. At the time, I don't believe he was the prime minister, but it doesn't really matter. He has been a very formative, very influential figure in American foreign policy, specifically in the Middle Eastern region. Also, may or may not have been a CIA agent as well. So, you've been saying WASPs a lot more recently. Can you explain the term? WASPs, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. I also jokingly refer to Tucker Carlson as a WASP supremacist.
Against Iraq immediately after the attacks on 9/11. Now, I'm not saying, I don't know more than that. So you can draw your own conclusions, and I'm not suggesting, that they staged 9/11 for that purpose, but I am saying unequivocally they used 9/11 for that purpose. We know that. That's not a conspiracy theory. And it's appalling. It's disgusting.
And of course, you know as well as anybody that well before 9/11, there were all sorts of growing calls and the usual suspects within Washington to try and demand that we engage in regime change in Iraq and remove Saddam Hussein. That was, the sort of great aspiration of neocons, not just in Washington, but also in Israel. That's and then 9/11 immediately got seized on for that. All right, let me move to all of the issues surrounding Charlie Kirk. And before I get to
Wait, may I just say one last thing?
Sure.
May I say one last thing that I think is important? So the question about 9/11, the reason people have debated it for 25 years is the question of foreknowledge. Do people know this was coming? And then it's a question of like, did they know it and allow it unintentionally or intentionally, or did they stage it? I can't answer those questions. But we conclusively answered the larger question, which is, oh yeah, there was foreknowledge of it. There's no question about it. CIA knew the hijackers were here. They knew they were terrorists and they were here to commit acts of terror against the United States. And critically, and this is the fact that somehow blew my mind the most, people bet in the public financial markets, the equity markets, against the airlines involved in 9/11 and the banks in the buildings that were taken down on 9/11. And they bet big, they shorted them, and they made a lot of money. This has been sort of known. What I didn't know is that the U.S. government found the identities of the people who did that, and they withheld them. And to this day, they've never been revealed. So this is a publicly traded series of trades and in public markets, and we can't know who made those trades. Whoever made those trades clearly knew 9/11 was coming, and the government has protected the identity of those people for 24 years.
Is Tucker vindicating you? I mean, he will never vindicate me. Foreknowledge aspect of this is correct, but the idea that they would know exactly what the target is and then make trade decisions, that's a little that's a claim that requires extraordinary evidence. I wouldn't say that is I wouldn't entertain that part of the narrative. As far as like the CIA knowing that there were known assets or known agents that had previously worked with known CIA collaborators and assets or people that were heavily monitored, that part is correct. The rest of it is speculation, making extraordinary claims without having extraordinary evidence. However, the one part about this argument that I do agree with is that, yes, of course, Israel fucking tilted the scales in their favor.
If you take
Israel has always taken Israel's always played a formative role in America's grand design in the region. This is just reality. Anyone that denies that, anyone that says that's not correct is fucking insane. Okay? It's completely insane. That is Israel's role. That's Israel's role in America's ambition for the region. Israel's role is precisely this. Now, to the extent of which Israel took over the driver's seat, this is Trump 1. After Barack Obama took the initiative against Israel in the most modest terms possible with JCPOA, Israel absolutely did everything in their fucking power, to make sure that never happens again. Okay? And it's not like a secret either. They very clearly did this with Sheldon Adelson at the time, not with Miriam Adelson. Miriam Adelson is Sheldon Adelson's wife because he died. So now it's Miriam Adelson that holds all the wealth. But they farmed Donald Trump straight up. They knew that he was malleable. They knew that he was corrupt. They knew that they could just make him do whatever the fuck they wanted by dangling money in front of him. And Donald Trump absolutely, without a shred of doubt, gave Israel basically the keys to the car, said you are driving our foreign policy now in the region. Okay? That's it. Straight up. Here is a younger Bibi Netanyahu in front of Congress trying to do his very best to advocate for America to go to war with Iraq.
Take out Saddam's regime, I guarantee you that it will have enormous positive reverberations on the region.
Very famous clip for those of you who don't know. If you topple the Saddam regime, it will have enormous positive reverberations around the region.
And I think that people sitting right next door in Iran, young people, and many others will say, the time of such regimes, of such despots, is gone. There is a new age. Something new is happening.
And that is speculation on your...
This has been... By the way, isn't that fucking... what's his face? That's the former head of Mossad, no? Or not at the time, but the one behind him. Or is that... That's a... I think that's a fucking... Wait, is it Ron Dermer? I don't know. Hold on. Let me see. No. Oh, yeah, it is. It is Ron Dermer. Yes, it is. Israeli politician and diplomat serving as the Minister of Strategic Affairs since 2002 and head of the negotiations of the hostage release since February 2025. That right there, sitting behind Bibi Netanyahu, is Ron Dermer. Israeli diplomat, Israeli politician, Ron Dermer. Not the head of Mossad in the past. Anyway, listen. Israel has been presenting this narrative forever. Okay. Oh, just one more toppling of a regime that is not directly servile to our interests, and everything will fall in line. Everything in the region will fall in line. Just one more fucking regime. This is, at the time, former Israeli Prime Minister from 1996 to 1999, Benjamin Netanyahu, making the argument to the U.S. Congress to go to war with Iraq, talking about how it is going to have positive reverberations around the entire region, all the way up to Iran.
Mr. Potter, you have some evidence to that effect.
I was asked the same question in 1986. I had written a book in which I had said that the way to deal with terrorist regimes, well, with terror, was to deal with the terrorist regimes. And the way to deal with the terrorist regimes, among other things, was to apply military force against them.
The way we did in Afghanistan.
The way, for example, I want to answer your question.
Well, I guess I'm running out of time, so I quickly was trying to get there. We've done, I think, what you proposed in Afghanistan, yet I haven't seen that sort of neighborhood effect.
Well, I think there's been an enormous effect. The effect was, we were told that there would be a contrary effect. First of all, people said that there would be tens of thousands of people streaming into Afghanistan, zealots who would be outraged by America's action, and this would produce a counter-reaction in the Arab world.
But I think you're not saying that when you take an action like we did in Afghanistan, we're going to see all the other countries just fold.
No, what we saw is something else. First of all, we saw everybody streaming out of Afghanistan. The second thing we saw is all the Arab countries and many Muslim countries trying to side with America, trying to...
This is post 9/11, post-Afghan invasion, pre-Iraq invasion. So I think it's in 2002, okay? I believe it's a congressional session taking place in 2002 before America invaded Iraq. Here is Benjamin Netanyahu advocating vociferously to get America to invade Iraq, saying it'll be fucking awesome. And even in that, he admits that he's been saying this since 1986, which is true. Talking about how these guys have nuclear weapons, for example. Iraq was invaded in 2003 after this congressional hearing.
To be okay with America. The application of power is the most important thing in winning the war on terrorism. If I had to say, what are the three principles of winning the war on terror? It's like, what are the three principles of real estate, the three L's, location, location, location? The three principles of winning the war on terror are the three W's, winning, winning, and winning. The more victories you amass, the easier the next victory becomes. The first victory in Afghanistan makes the second victory in Iraq that much easier. The second victory in Iraq will make the third victory that much easier too, but it may change the nature of achieving that victory. It may be possible to have implosions taking place. I don't guarantee it, Mr. Turney, but I think it makes it more likely, and therefore I think that...
Man, such winning has taken place, chat. What is it, like fucking $8 trillion? $8 fucking trillion. 12,000 American service members dead in the process. Man, tens of millions displaced, millions dead. A network of sometimes CIA and other times Israel-backed terror cells that are wreaking havoc in the entire region. Man, we've won so much, dude. So much. Thank God. Thank God for Benjamin Netanyahu. Mission accomplished, baby. Thank fucking God. David Wamser wrote a policy paper for Benjamin Netanyahu in 1996 recommending the regime change in Iraq as an important Israeli strategic objective in its own right. Even though David Wamser here says this is a lie, I was there, and this is a lie. Why is it that these people get to just openly lie about what they did? Austin Show. Swooner. Yeah. Is the third victory Netanyahu was talking about a potential war in Iran? Yes. I always found it peculiar how two countries that have nothing to do with 9/11, Iraq and Afghanistan, are the countries that flank Iran, Israel's premier geopolitical rival on both sides. Yeah. The point there was any country that would not play ball, because you see the countries that do play ball, right? The Gulf nations. They have instability at times, but ultimately the regimes, the administrations, the monarchies, they are always in line with U.S. interests. And now they're in line on paper as well, right? What's interesting about this, of course, is that
You take out
so much death and destruction has taken place. So much money and lives have been lost. Here's Ron Dermer, by the way, who was behind Benjamin Netanyahu, as I showed you earlier, saying the same exact fucking bullshit. We must dismantle the terror army of Hamas in Gaza, which will not only be a victory for Israel, but also for the U.S. The U.S. will show all of its allies that it sticks with them even when it's tough, and it will project American power across the region. They're saying the same old bullshit even now. Now, what's interesting about this, of course, is that while they're saying the same old bullshit, they're also simultaneously claiming that Israel's small bean, Israel have no interest, Israel has nothing to do with American affairs of this sort. Okay? Benjamin Netanyahu has been openly parading at times how much influence he has over American Congress, both internally in Israel, as a major factor as to why he must keep being in power, okay? And also all around the region as well. Oh, you fuck with us? America's got our back. I have complete control over U.S. Congress. This has always been the case. And at certain points throughout time, maybe it was an exaggeration, but post-Trump 1, it was no longer an exaggeration. It was reality. Reality that you can see with your own two fucking eyes, okay? That's it. That's it. How else do you think a foreign nation state can just bomb whoever the fuck they want, including humanitarian aid workers that are seeking to deliver humanitarian aid during a genocide off the coast of Malta, off the coast of Tunisia? It is ridiculous. That is where we're at.